for supposedly being the happiest film company on earth. Disney films were filled with all some sort of frightening moments. Anyone remember the coachman's horrific grin, Pinocchio, followed by the painful looking donkey transformation? What about the infamous segment from Fantasia where the enormous demon on Bald Mountain? Or Dumbo's drunken elephant hallucinations that scared us away from drinking alcohol? If you were frightened by any of the above scenes, or any other similar scenes in Disney film, be thankful you never saw The Pathway to Hell. Never heard of it? Don't worry, I can't find a single person online who has. I only saw it once. When I was 6 or 7, during the mid to late 90s, I remember my mom bringing it back from a random thrift shop and putting it on for me. I know for sure it was a Disney film, because I was explicitly remember seeing the Disney logo on the VHS cover and the previews for other Disney films before the actual film started. The film terrified the ever-living loving crap out of me. I remember constantly covering my eyes and praying it would be over soon, but I couldn't stop watching it anyway. I felt I felt drawn to it, like a moth to a flame, despite me feeling increasingly frightened more and more as the film continued. The film was about a pair of kids, a boy and a girl, who lived on a farm with their grandparents, somewhere in the northern United States, like Montana. They were told by their grandparent father not to visit on the well on the far side of the yard. The kids disobeyed their grandfather and visited it anyway. A bunch of demons came out of the well and stole the boy's head. Now the girl had to go down and find it. The first few minutes of the film was animated in the typical cutesy Disney style. But after the girl went down to hell, and yes, they did refer to it as just that, it suddenly switched to a more twisted and surreal appearance, similar to that of Stephen Gamble's infamous illustrations for the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark series. I remember how hell was depicted in the film perfectly. It was mostly gray with a few reds and blues here and there. The rocks looked like skulls, and the trees looked like hands. The latter constantly reached over and tried to grab the girl as she ran through all with with a terrified expression. Throughout the film, the girl constantly encountered various obstacles. Some of the demons she met ended up helping her, while the others were less helpful. There was no possible way of knowing who was friend or foe. The first creature she met was some sort of eyeless pig, rat, bug thing that she made a screaming, laughing sound that like a demonic Donald Duck as it tore away the girl's dress. And she ended up spending the majority of the film in her underwear. I don't remember most of the obstacles she encountered, save for the kitten eater. The kitten eater was an enormous, pale-skinned, obese being that sat on the chair, clearly too small for him. He had no facial features other than a pair of black, jelly blob eyes and an enormous wide mouth filled with sharp teeth due to his name. He had a cage full of adorable eyed kittens, all drawn in traditional Disney style, sitting next to his chair. The kittens were all mewing in a heart-wrenchingly realistic manner as the kitten eater would reach down the cage and pull out a frightened kitten, pop it into his mouth, and chew it up with a sound of crunching bones. I even remembered him wiping away blood in one shot. I remembered when the girl saw the kitten eater. He spoke to her in a horrible, deep-sounding voice, lower than any human voice I've ever heard, before grabbing her by the back of her panties and trying to swallow her. There was also the devil itself. I use it because I couldn't tell if it was a male or a female. I remembered it having long stringing hair, pale corpse-like skin thinly stretched over a lanky skeleton, empty black eye sockets, and a sharp fang-like teeth. Spoke in a horrible high-pitched screeching voice that sounded like that horrible screaming sound red foxes made, except forming words. I remember that there was being a strange song that played as the devil and its minions tossed the boy's severed head around in one scene. Speaking of which, that's another thing I could remember quite vividly. See, the boy's head was alive while it was separated from his body. As the devil held the head, it cried and begged the devil to return to its body. I also remember the film constantly cutting back to the farm where the headless boy's body continued to walk around, picking up stuff like rocks and placing them on its neck stump, trying to replace its old head. After it got to the scene where the girl finally makes it to where the devil is keeping her brother's head, my mom came in and saw what was going on in the movie. Then she noticed me as looking petrified as I continued to stare at the screen. I think she then realized this film was too much for me. She took it all out of the VCR, put it back in its case, and returned it to the store. So I didn't get to see how the movie ended. I never saw or heard anything about that film ever again. I never found another copy, neither that can I find any info about it on the internet. Seems to be just vanished from existence. Despite being probably from the most famous animation company on this planet. But I still remember that film explicitly well. Even 20 years later, it's been haunting me for years. Right before I wrote this, I asked my mom about the film, and she remembered it too, but didn't know anything about it, which proves I didn't imagine or dream it. I have no idea where the VHS of the film is now, or even if there's more than one copy. So if you have the copy of the film, please provide proof of some kind, like a screen cap or a picture of the cover, just so that I can show the world that I'm not crazy and that Disney's most nightmarish animated film really did exist.